right, hello Internet. We are back with another interview on Casey Music Talk. Today I have a guitar player here in Kansas City, Steve Hawkins. How you doing?
Hey Rob, good to see you.
Thanks for coming, man.
You bet.
So you and I just played a jam together last
Saturday. Yeah.
So I don't remember. I'm sure I met you at Knuckleheads. I'm sure that's the first time I saw you. It was probably a couple of years ago, but
It may have been there. It may have been over at that place down on 43rd there that we used to go to once in a while. But either place doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I know there's kind of a handful of guys that come to the jams that are pretty darn proficient, and they get up there and they can kind of handle themselves with literally everything that anybody throws. And I've just definitely always been pretty impressed by your playing and stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I used to be a rock guy for a long time, but I got into blues like 20 something years ago, and I kind of put blinders on after that, and so I haven't played much rock in a while. So I'll get fooled on that for a while, but I'm in the blues scene right now. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So tell me, because you and I haven't talked a ton before, right. But tell me a little bit like how you kind of got started and some of the things that have happened up until now.
Well, that's an interesting story. I started playing guitar at 11. Mm-hmm. I'm 66, so I've been playing 55 years. And we lived in a small town in Oklahoma. There was no music store. You had to buy strings at the drugstore, and that was it. And but we're only about 20 miles from Fort Smith, Arkansas, and they had a couple of music stores. So me and three other guys, somebody's mom would take us over to a lesson. Well, that lasted approximately a month, and everybody's fingers got sore, and the other guys quit. I mean, when you first start playing, you don't have calluses. It's pretty tough.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kept going, and I would go to this guy or that guy just for a little bit. And so I finally went to this one guy, and he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. He says, we're going to, and I'm talking short period of time.
Yeah.
He says, here's this book, here's these notes. Go home and learn this song, Red River Valley. Mm-hmm. And I went home, and I looked at that book, and I played that a little bit, and I said, this sucks, virtually. So I went back the next week, and he said, you learned the song? I go, no, I don't want to do that. I said, do you? And I'm 13 or 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, you know this song on the radio? Yeah, show me how to play it. I never learned how to read, but I learned how to play pretty quick. And I guess I had a natural ability for it. So now I'm 13, and I can play a little bit lead. And there's only one band in the town we live in. And all these guys are in high school, and they're all playing instrumental stuff. And apparently the word gets around. The guys come to me and go, can you play lead guitar? I go, I think so. Come join our band. And so there it started at 13. And I played, we played all the surf stuff and all that stuff. And then the Beatles just came on the scene and all that kind of thing. And so at 15, we started playing in clubs. I was 15, and we started playing in clubs over there. And I kind of liked it back then because what you would do is go in and actually set your PA up, play 3 or 4 songs for the guy that owned the club, and if he liked you, he'd go thumbs up. If he didn't, he'd go thumbs down, and then you'd get a job.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to today, they just want somebody in a lot of places just to make noise for X amount of dollars. And talent, who cares? Not always, but sometimes. So I guess I'm just old school like that.
Oh, yeah. That's funny, man. I mean, the interesting thing what you said is that everybody's all fun and games when they start, but then they're like, oh, this is like work.
It's like a job.
This is dumb.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, and it's funny, out of the 4, it sounds like you're, again, 50, 55 years later, you're still playing, and they're, possibly quit,
doing
like,
whatever they're doing. Yeah, I'm sure they're not playing. They said that was enough, but
yeah.
The other little thing is, while I'm off on the tangent that we talked about, the other thing is for guys playing today, there's some really, really good young guitar players here in Kansas City. But They need to learn how to play rhythm guitar. It's not all about being the solo guy. It's not all about playing the lead. I've run into so many guys that are fantastic lead players, can't play solo for anything. I mean, I'm sorry, rhythm for anything. And it's kind of a lost art. It's as hard to find a good rhythm player as it is a good lead player, or it may be harder to find a good rhythm player. So, I mean, they may not want to hear that, but I've just run into too many of them, you know.
So what do they do? So specifically, like breaking it down, is it like a volume thing, or are they playing too much, or
no? They just don't. They don't work at it like they do the lead scales and all the things that they do. They don't learn how to be the background for the song. And I mean, anybody that's played a little while can just strum some chords.
Sure.
But there's a talent and an art to playing rhythm, and they just don't put the time in. I think it's more than anything. But that's kind of a telltale thing for me. I mean, I've had guys. I won't mention any names. I've had a guy come in. I was thinking at one time getting a second guitar player, and this guy was really good. And I brought him in. I said, "Okay, can you play this? No. Can you play this?" And I'm talking simple chord stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. I mean, kind of a light bulb, you know. So, but yeah, that's kind of a deal for me.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that a lot, about the comping kind of stuff. When there being a accompaniment, we've talked a lot about bass and drums. I've had a ton of bass and drummers on the show, but we haven't talked about that too much, like specifically with guitar players. And yeah, I mean, who goes home and practices rhythm guitar? That's a great question.
They don't.
Who sits there and practices the you know?
They don't. I mean, a lot of guys don't, and it's not a big deal. It's not a talent problem or anything. It's just that they don't focus on that. You know, so.
Yeah, I wonder if too that a lot of times I would think, especially jazz guys are really good at this, about finding like 4 different ways to play a G, you know, and then for example, they have their kind of cowboy chords down here, but then they can find, halfway up their neck a nice little range of a chord there, and they'll be able to chord-wise choose a chord that is going to cut through too, and so that's one, right, the chord choice. But I mean, maybe are you talking about like literally the choices that they're making, like rhythm-wise and pitch-wise, or is it like more of a volume and too much, or they just plain don't know how to do it?
It's not a volume thing at all. It's just it's so, a lot of them are just so vanilla, and so, and it's not that it's bad, but it could be so much more because I know they got the talent because they play the lead so well.
Right.
And it's just, that comes from experience, or you got to want to do that, so,
I've heard a lot of guys talk too about that they want, and this is probably what you're trying to get at, he's like, I don't want a rhythm player or a soloist. I want a guitar player, that can do both. You need it, and that's probably, similar to what you're saying, is because that happens a lot in country bands, right? Really? They'll hire a rhythm player, then they'll hire the lead.
That's probably true.
Yeah, and I mean, you need a guitar player. I totally agree with that.
Well, I mean, everybody. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a big deal at it either. All I'm saying is, I come from a background of way back when it was, I'm going to call them soul bands more than R&B here. But there's just, and I always like horn bands, that kind of thing. And so I feel like my chords, I play a lot like a horn section would play, and I'm talking about an R&B type of thing.
Right.
And so that's it's got a little more to it, a little more funk to it, and not just plain, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's just my thing. I mean, I'm not condemning anybody here. I'm just saying I don't see that much.
Oh yeah. Well, I totally agree. I mean, definitely. I think jazz players, that happens a lot, where everybody's sitting there practicing their solos and they never practice the comping part, and it's really important. I mean, it make or breaks a song for sure, or it can. But yeah, so talk so we kind of got up till today. Talk a little bit about your band, man. What you got going on?
Well, my band is Connie Hawkins and the Blues Wreckers, and my name is Steve Hawkins, so that would be my wife. And we've been married 48 years this month, actually.
Wow.
So, and here's an interesting story. We started this band in 2002, and the reason I waited till 2002 because I had 2 daughters and they were in school and they were in college. I didn't want to have a band while all that was going on, and so you got to picture that Connie's never sang anywhere other than some theater stuff and gospel stuff. Mm-hmm. Nothing else ever. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to start a blues band because the gospel style that she sang was black gospel style. Mm-hmm. I said, it's the same thing. I mean, it literally is. And I said, okay. So we started this band, and she didn't know one blues song, obviously. Mm-hmm. So it took us probably a year before we could come out of the basement. Mm-hmm. You know, we had to get the players together. She had to learn 4 hours worth of music and all that stuff. But since that point, we're still going. It's 2018, so 16 years, and several players have gone in and out. That kind of. As a matter of fact, I don't think any of the players I have right now are original players. But we've got 3 CDs worth of original music.
Wow.
And that's kind of the difference between us and not. I would say. I'm guessing it's 90% to 10% of bands, blues bands that here in town that play original music. Mm-hmm. I don't know that. Maybe it's 75-25. I don't know. But we play a lot of original. If I play a festival for an hour and 15-minute set, it's going to be all original, but basically maybe 1 or 2 covers. But and that's a harder way to go.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
By a long shot, because everybody wants to hear cover stuff, you know, and it's even in the blues world not as bad, but in the rock world you got to do that.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to play, but so it's been a different, to say the least, trying to do original stuff. It's starting to, I don't want to say pay off, but it's just what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But it's starting to come around a little bit. We've got, we went to the IBC. I'm sure people have been on here and talked about the mm-hmm. IBC. We went to the IBC last year for our first time to go, and we got in the semifinals, which that sounds like a big deal. Mm-hmm. But I think there was 109 bands there. And I think the semifinals was 44.
Yeah,
so it's not like the top 15.
Right.
But it could be, because here's what they don't tell you. They say, well, you're in the semifinals, but they don't tell the scores.
Yeah.
So out of those 44, you could have been number 1,
uh-huh.
or you could have been number 44.
Right.
So you know, but it's a good deal to get into semifinals. It's a nice thing.
And that's down in Memphis.
That's down in Memphis.
The 109 was down in Memphis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big deal, man.
It is a big deal, but what we did was our latest CD came out. Matter of fact, I had to get it out in time to enter what they have down there called the Best Self-Produced CD mm-hmm. contest, and we got in the semifinals with the CD. Now that was just 12.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So that was a pretty big deal. That helped. We got several festivals out of this thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. And actually, we went to try out again this year, and Sean McDonald's band beat us. Mm-hmm. We took second, and they're great. Mm-hmm. Sean's a great player.
Oh yeah.
But in the process of that, one of the judges was a lady from Nashville, mm-hmm. with the Galaxy Agency out of Nashville, kind of a big deal. And she invited us to her showcase. So we're going to be in the showcase this year at the IBC at BB King's Club.
Wow, that's fun.
It'll be fun because we played in that club last year. And as far as aesthetics and stage and sound, it's the best club in the whole place.
Yeah.
Now they also have, excuse me, they also have a Hammond sitting there, and we got a Hammond guy, so that works out great.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Talk a little bit about so are you writing those tunes, or how does that work?
Nah, I write them all.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I get an idea, and not normally, but I say a lot of times, I have everything in my head. bass line, drums, everything I wanted to do. And then sometimes, probably a smaller percentage of time, 30% maybe, I go, okay, I've got this, show me something funky on the bass, or show me something here, and then we kind of flesh it out a little bit at practice, and we got something, and next thing you know, it's on a CD.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So there you go.
Sometimes we need that. Like I've noticed that because I wrote these 2 albums in Wichita, and sometimes I wanted to like write a bass line out for them. Sometimes it was a riff, so that was easy because I already had the riff in my head.
Right.
But like it was like I'm not gonna write out a walking bass line. That's an idiotic thing to do. I'm gonna go grab a bass player who can off his head, out of nothing, just walk way better than anything I'm ever gonna write. Like on the spot, he's gonna do that, So like that probably helps a lot, huh? When you have some good players in your band.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes I'll have a specific note line that I want played, and then sometimes it's like I want this, but I'm not opposed to smoothing around a little bit, and then we see what we got.
Right.
Just going for more for that feel than.
Right.
Than specific notes sometimes.
I think drums works that way too, because I know one time I had this idea, and I know that I wanted him to do this type of like hi-hat snare funky thing that I've seen a million drummers do, and I go, okay, I want you to do a hi-hat snare thing.
Funky thing, yeah.
And he and he starts doing, I'm like, yep, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
And so, so you maybe just give him a little direction, huh? A little bit,
Yeah. And had a lot of fun recording. We had some really good players, and I love recording. That's cool stuff.
Oh yeah, recording's fun. So like with the writing, you were mentioning doing the covers and not covers. Do you feel pressure to write stuff that is generally around the 12-bar kind of area, or do you guys on purpose
that's a great question.
Dive out on purpose?
That is a great question, because I don't, and it's a good or a bad thing, I don't know which, but I don't generally write a normal 12-bar blues thing. I try to do it like something you haven't heard. It's blues, but maybe you haven't heard it this way. I can do the 12-bar blues thing, but there's so many great songs out there that are like that, that are classics. It's like, what am I going to do? Change the words, So, but I just try to do something a little different. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but that's what I do.
Oh yeah.
But
because you're making a great point. I've said that on the show before. I think that to me, like different chord progressions is really, to me, what makes a song different from another, because you have these 800 12-bar blues tunes, but they just have different, and 400 of them are shuffles.
Yeah.
It's just the same song with different words, and that's rough to tell some people
tough.
that. But I just think they're all the same song, they're like...
It's interesting, because what's so cool about it is, I've got a song right now that I wrote on our second CD. That was, it probably was a shuffle, maybe a medium shuffle.
Right.
Yeah. But I redid it into a da 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 instead of a shuffle, kind of thing, and it's got a whole different, a totally different feel to it. It's more of a swampy kind of thing now, and we're going to do that down there, and it's like, that song's pretty cool now. It was a good song, but it was just, you got to have 10 songs on there, and it was decent, but it wasn't the winner on the album. But I think it's a lot better song now. And we've got this is kind of the way it works in the music business, I guess. I got this CD, and I think it came out in August. I haven't released it. So it's been, 6 months or so, and I haven't released it yet. And I felt pressure to end it, to get it done so I could enter in this contest. And some of the songs are pretty good, and some, they're not bad songs, but they're not the best. But every album seems to be that way. There's 2 or 3 good ones.
Yeah.
Maybe only 2, maybe only 1 that are really good songs that you're really proud of. When I say proud of, they come out like I heard them in my head, which is, a lot of them don't always do that. But so I haven't released this, and I've written 3 songs. Actually changed that one and written 2 other songs that I think are much better. Now got this dilemma. Do I go back and put these songs in there? That's pretty expensive after I've done all this stuff. So I don't know what I'll do. I may just keep these and wait, and next year do another CD and call it a day. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, you can always put out another album.
Yeah.
That would be cheaper in a way. Because then you'd still have to, you wouldn't have to, but you'd still end up making another CD anyway, probably.
Sometimes, like I put the same song on this CD that I had on the last CD. I just rearranged it. But it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, but I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said, I don't read or anything, so it's kind of a workman type deal for me to get all this stuff ironed out.
Yeah.
So, but I like doing it.
Yeah. So one question Connie was going to come tonight, and I had a question for her specifically, but and maybe you can answer this, and you can pass if you don't want to answer, but I know I had, and I won't mention her name, but I had an ex-girlfriend a while ago, and we, both musicians, and it was interesting. I always thought that I wanted to go find a girlfriend, wife, or whatever that had to be a musician. And the reason I had that mentality was because I needed somebody that was going to understand why I'm so obsessed with this crap, and
exactly.
At least a person who understands that. Maybe they wouldn't have to be a musician, I guess, now that I think about it. But anyway, so I was always looking for musicians to date and marry, whatever. And when I found this one girlfriend, it didn't work at all. Like the music side of it, I thought that because we were both fans of music that there would be that commonality there. But in my opinion, I think it ended up being more of a competition.
Really?
And and this is just my opinion, but I think that was more her than me, kind of making it a competition. And so I guess the question I had for you is that I've heard a lot of people talk about having like literally working with their wife at the literal same company when they're in the same room, not that they're at like totally different buildings or something, but obviously you guys are now on 17 years of the band or whatever you said.
About 16 now.
16 years. So obviously that's gone pretty well for you guys. How is that in general? Is that pretty neat?
Well, like I told you earlier, I've been married for 48 years. So if we haven't worked things out by now, it's kind of it's kind of an extension of that. It's like she's the singer, I write the stuff. Sometimes I say you ought to sing it this way, and she listens to me. And then sometimes she says, "Wait a minute," and then we work it out. It's not. But we don't have those. I've heard of that too. Like people work together and you're together 24/7.
Right.
But
and then 3 months later, you're like, blah,
Nah, we've had some knockdown dragouts about, well, I want to do this or I want to do that kind of thing. But in general, it's not a problem. We get along pretty good. We both enjoy doing it. She's sung her entire life since she's 5 years old, and so it works good.
Yeah, that's neat, man. Yeah. So you would say that probably the lesson that you just said was obviously something that didn't really happen to me. Where it's like I'll give the 2 cents, and then she'll be like, huh, and then she'll give 2 cents, and I'll be like, huh. And instead, it was like, no, blah, 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 and we just had an argument. You said she actually maybe kind of sits there and listens once in a while. You sit there and kind of listen to what she said, and there's a mutualness, respect kind of
even
there.
When there's a blowout, and once in a while there is, like I said, how I've been married so long, same thing. The key is once that's done, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, let's get back to business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way I can put it. It just works that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you don't say what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that now I've said it, and you've said it. All right, we good? Yeah, let's get back to business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way we do it.
Yeah, I think people sometimes, in a band, I think we've all seen this where a person will come up with an idea and everybody will just immediately agree, oh yeah, that's an awesome idea, and then you'll just change it. But I think sometimes, this is kind of off on a different tangent, just relationships with people in general, that
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes, especially when it's a big idea, they're not going to change in 1 second. You got to give them time to
Yeah.
mull it over.
Yeah.
And so that can, sometimes we want them to just agree right now, and whoever it is, a friend, a girlfriend, bandmates.
Right.
But, and what was the other thing you said? You also said that it's done, right? You have the argument.
We had
it's
that
done.
moment.
You guys aren't sitting there with your tally sheets.
No.
Well, you
No.
you got me 7 times, and I only got
If you do
3
that,
times.
It's not going to last.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's definitely what our relationship
I
had.
had
Is she had the, you've screwed me over, blah blah, and I've only screwed,
I'm going to tell you something that, and I'm not going to mention any names here, but in this band, I've never had an issue with a player being crazy or anything. You know how bands can be.
Yeah.
No, the guy was. Everybody's been great, and this particular guy was great. But we got a new bass player in the band, and the bass player had been singing backup in the previous band, and I said, "Hey." I want to do a couple songs here that we need to do some harmony and stuff, and I'd like you to sing the backup because I know you've been singing it. Okay. The next week, I get a demand for a meeting with one of the guys that's already in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally sits down, and I had no clue what this was about, and because he'd been in the band for 3 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And never said he sang, never said anything about that kind of stuff. And I was really kind of doubtful that he could sing, but I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
He sits down and he's got a little notebook. And he literally, what you said, he has this stuff written down. And you didn't ask me to sing. You never said you could sing. Well, and da-da-da, and blah, 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 and I'm going,
At this gig you did this, and at that
where
gig
did this
you did
come
it.
from?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And next thing I know, and this meeting lasted 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And he said, and I'm out of here. Okay. And I thought,
Wow.
what just happened?
Yeah.
But
wow.
you just, sometimes you don't know. But yeah, he got mad because I didn't ask him to sing, but he never mentioned it in 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. What are you gonna do? It's part of
Right.
a band. But literally, we haven't had any problems in our bands, and the guys I have now are great. I couldn't get a bunch of better guys, and they're really, really good players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could play for anybody. The guy that, this is funny because we're talking about knuckleheads. The guy that plays saxophone for me is Jeff Ingram. And I was at Knuckleheads on a Sunday jam, and I rarely ever go there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get out. And I hadn't been there in, I'd say, a year almost. And I went to the jam, and I walked up, and I'm looking at the stage, and this guy's on stage playing sax, and he's just burning it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I've never seen this. I know everybody in the blues scene.
Yeah.
I said, I've never seen this guy before.
Yeah.
Well, I said, I'm going to go catch him when he comes off the steps and see what's going on. And he came down. I said, hey, you play with anybody in town? No. Really? He said, but I don't live here. I go, okay.
Yeah.
I live in Colorado.
Mm.
Okay. So I hang my head, and he goes, but I'm moving here. And I go, ta-da.
Yeah.
And I grabbed him, and we talked about it, and I've got him. And it turns out he was a music teacher for 32 years.
Yeah. Mm.
And playing with a lot of big-time stuff in Colorado. So he can really play. And I was just real fortunate to get him. And he's a really nice guy, and about our age. We all get along. So that was a good grab.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I've done that very often.
Oh yeah.
But
well, you mentioned something that we've talked about on the show also is the general idea of getting along with other bandmates, and I know some of the other podcasts that I've been watching that aren't musical, they've been talking about this concept a lot where you, like, let's say it's at work or something, and you have this tiny thing like, I don't know, the person doesn't put the spatula back in the right spot. You know, some irrelevant, stupid thing.
Yeah.
But that annoys you, right? And then there's another little thing where they don't put the rag back either.
I think that's what was happening to this guy.
Yeah, and so...
But he doesn't say anything.
Right, and that's the deal, is you don't say anything about the first thing, don't say anything about the second thing, and then, but you put all... Because you maybe justify it in your head where this isn't important enough to bring up, right? And then, but 6 months down the road, now you have 1,000 little things.
Right.
Where you have and the problem is that what these guys were arguing is that, you know, do you have a come to Jesus meeting, you know, about the first thing? Well, you know, does it need to be that extreme? Maybe not, but after 6 months, you have 1,000 little things, and now you build up this resentment, you build up this anger, and that sounds like, in general, that's what was happening to the guy, where he didn't say anything about the first thing.
I think it was.
And then it just, and then at some point it explodes.
Well, you know, a band, like I said, a band to me is no different than a marriage, basically. I mean, when everybody's in there and they're committed to practice time and all the things you have to do, and everybody, it's hard for that many people to get along all the time. But yeah, if you don't, my saying to the guys that I play with, and so I look for a guy that you can tell when a guy's auditioning, you know, is he kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, or is he kind of moody? I mean, you kind of get this sense of people a little
personality.
bit. Yeah. And it's my deal is always, and I tell them when we have auditions and stuff, I said the playing is the easy part. It's everything else.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we can't get along, doesn't matter how good you are. You know, can't use you. So that's kind of the way it works. But fortunately, we've had real good luck, and the guys I got now, we just don't have a problem. We don't have any problem.
Yeah. I don't know if you know Phil Shirelli, but another guitar player in town, but he's been on the show. But his son is a guitar player for Florida Georgia Line.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but anyway, he was talking about the guys in Nashville, when they do their auditions, they do sort of what you were just talking about. The guy comes in literally 2 minutes, you know, I mean, 2 minutes of playing, and they're like, okay, we've heard enough, let's go have a beer, you know, and then for an hour, they get to know him with the beer. 2 minute playing, hour, and they're like, because this is more important, we already know you can play.
Exactly.
There's a million guys that could come in here and play, but,
absolutely.
But there's 40 that are going to do well here, you know, there's a million, and then 4, you know, that are going to have the right attitude, you know, a little bit know their role in the band, you know. Right now, I mean, for you, that they're not the writer, you know, maybe that 30% that you taught, you know, so that we already have that role. You know what I mean? They kind of know what they need to do, and the attitude, and like, you know.
There's a guy, that reminds me, there's a guy when the Grand Emporium was still going on, and I went to the jam down there, and there was a guy came down there, and he was a sax guy. And he was one of the best sax players I've ever heard, period. I mean, he was that good. And you could tell, everybody goes around twice, right, on the jams. He likes to go 4 or 5 times. And I'm going, okay, check that off. And then you go talk to the guy a little bit, and he goes, I'm from Chicago. Yeah. He says, I don't have a car. Okay. And the guy was just fantastic. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is not going to work no matter what. Now, here's the irony of this. Connie and I, on our 35th anniversary, which was, 13 years ago, went on the blues cruise. And we're on the blues cruise. And this band from California, Philip Walker was the name of the guy, old black guy. And they had a horn player, they had a sax player and a trumpet player. and all old guys, and they were really tight. I mean, they were really good.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this sax player, and I go, I think I know that guy. It was this guy.
Yeah.
And I went up and talked to him. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And all this stuff. And can you get me up? Yeah, I'll get you up. You know, that kind of thing. But it's like, I'm surprised. I guess, and now this was a long time later, so he probably learned that I better toe the line if I want to work anywhere.
You'd hope.
Yeah. But it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the time. Here's another great story. That was the time that Joe, you know who Joe Bonamassa is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Joe Bonamassa's on this one. The only one he's ever been on as far as the Blues Cruise. And they have a place on there. They got main stage on the back like a normal stage you would have anywhere. Have you been on it?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they have a regular stage you would see anywhere on the back of the boat. And then they have different places around the boat where you can play. And they have up in the front, the Crow's Nest is set up basically like a club. Mm-hmm. And it has a small stage. And the passengers have a jam. You bring your stuff and you jam.
That's fun.
And it's fun. So I'm closing down the jam. Connie's there. We're closing down the jam. It's 1:30, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, I'm literally putting my guitar in my case. Down the hall comes a guy carrying, at the time, a gold Stratocaster. Now, he's a big Gibson Les Paul guy, has been for years now, but at that time, he had a gold Stratocaster. Mm-hmm. And here comes a guy carrying a gold Stratocaster. I said, that looks like Bonamassa's Strat. Two guys behind him, here comes Joe.
Yeah, wow. You're like, oh, really?
And he comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, can I sit in with you? And I go, yeah. But the line was, and I'm quoting him, he says, can I sit in with you? There's too many egos up on the main deck. Ooh. And I go, sure. And so we played for like an hour, 15 hour and a half, and there wasn't nobody else there. Yeah. Connie's camera battery was down. I never got a video. I didn't get anything. I mean, there's literally 5 people there, maybe. Wow. And we played country, we played rock, we played this. I even got a couple of attaboys from Joe Bonamassa. That's a good deal. And it's like, wow. Okay, so the next day I saw him and I said, hey, can I take a picture with you? Yeah. Took his picture. Nice guy. Now, a lot of people say things about him, but I don't know. But he was nice to me. Yeah. But that was that made the trip. Oh, yeah, it made the trip.
That's fun. Yeah, and that's it's. I've been asking a lot of people this question about like kind of what is your deal breaker in a band? You know, what is the thing that you somebody like just won't stand for? You know, and like the example I always use is like guys like falling off the stage drunk. I mean, you got to get right. You know, I mean that's an easy one, but it's so funny that I'll get a lot of different answers from people. You know, like some people will say, like answering the phone. You know, some people just cannot handle flakiness, you know, where they don't answer the phone, show up late, kind of that kind of stuff. And then some other people will say the ego or attitude or kind of a thing. Another person will, you know, I think you've seen many people in bands where they'll put up with a little bit of flakiness because this guy is, you know, Jesus on the guitar or something, you know, and exactly. So like, or somebody will, or it'll be somebody has to like the music that they're playing or else they don't even want to be there, you know, and so it's just hilarious all the different, you know, what I call it, the deal breakers that people will have in a band. Is the attitude thing maybe yours or what? I mean, I don't know if you've ever thought about that.
I'd like to say this or that, but to be honest with you, like I was saying earlier, I kind of vet the guys that play with me so much that I don't run into those issues. Yeah. But I'm trying to think. I don't think I was ever in a band, and I've been in so many, that ever had guys that, okay, time out. I've got a story. I keep forgetting. Every musician that's played a long time could write a book.
Oh, yeah.
So okay.
See, you repressed that one. I could tell. That one you blocked out, whatever this one is.
I don't know why I didn't. Well, I thought earlier when I was thinking about coming over, I ought to tell them this story about it. But anyway.
It was traumatic, apparently. And you.
Well, it didn't. It was just band flakiness, okay? But it was.
Sure.
So like I said, I'm in the. I played in the little surf band, and then I got into a little bit better bands there in town. There's some guys moved around, came in, some other players, and we were playing rock and doing the stuff. You know, now we're talking late '60s, early '70s. Music's happening.
Yeah, sure.
And so we got a pretty good band, just a bunch of local guys, and the music store again was only the one was over in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Well, the guy that ran the desk at the music store, there's always that guy at the music store, you know. Well, he was a really good guitar player and a real nice guy. And they were in a band called Rock Bottom. And it was the band in that area. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts, the band. The drummer was the local DJ at the station. So anytime anybody came to the auditorium, they were going to warm them up. And we're talking Blood Rock and Sugarloaf and all those bands back then. I get a call. We're going to add another guitar player. You want to play with us? Yeah. The name of the music store was Sigler Music. It's still there today. Been there for 50, 60 years. And the guy's still there. Jimmy Atchison. He was my bud. And so I go over there and we start playing all this stuff and really sounding good for that day and time. And now here's the irony of this. Mr. Sigler was alive then that owned Sigler Music. And there's another guitar place moved in, and it's called Ben Jack Guitar Center. And they built a studio, brand new, which was state-of-the-art Nashville type studio in 70 or 71. Mr. Sigler put up the money for this band to make an album there. So I joined the band. We go into the studio. Now these guys have been together for years. We go in the studio, probably got 6 or 7 songs in the can already. They get into some kind of argument. I wasn't there because I don't live in Fort Smith. Kicked the bass player out in the middle of this paid-for album in brand new studio. And I never knew why. I just knew the band there was no longer.
Jeez, man.
I know, it's crazy.
They couldn't figure it out.
I don't know. I said, okay. I mean, what do I know? I'm 20. What do I know?
Right, yeah. Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's you know.
I've got another one. This is great. So we're in high school. We went, the other band I was talking about that we had over there, not the Fort Smith band, we won a battle of bands. And so we get to go to Muskogee, Oklahoma, at the auditorium where the one-hit wonders, what's the name of those guys? Time Won't Let Me, the song. And I forget the name of them, but it was a #1 or something. Anyway, they were the headliners. And so we get to go out whenever. The guy backstage goes, hey, you guys, there's going to be you guys and then this single guy and then, I mean, the headliner, single guy, and then you guys and somebody else. After a little while, he comes to us. He says, hey, this single is not going to show. He said, he's at the motel drunk. He said, we're going to go out and tell him that he's sick. You guys are on next. Okay. What's this guy's name? Oh, B.J. Thomas.
Oh.
Before he was
Yeah,
B.J.
wow.
Thomas.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
It's different.
Because that's another thing is that everybody doesn't really know all of that Hollywood kind of stuff.
No.
You know that
No.
you know, and they coming off of oh, I'm sorry, he can't be here tonight. You know, he's sick and all that.
Well,
you know,
that's a big part of the business sometimes. But I thought that was interesting. I mean, I didn't know who that was because he hadn't really done anything yet.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, but I thought that was interesting later. You know, when I read, oh, that guy.
I mean, I already mentioned that, but that's another thing that we haven't really talked about on the show that much is kind of addiction in general, because it's a big deal with musicians. It's really part. It's not even that it's a part of our culture, you know,
Right.
our music culture, but definitely definitely drinking is for sure, and obviously back in the day, you know, drugs like crazy.
Oh, it was a lot different back in the day. There was guys, yeah. And the other thing that was interesting about back in the day, I mean, the addiction is obviously there, and drugs, alcohol, whatever. I mean, it's just the lifestyle. But going on the road, I knew a guy who was a bass player, and he was in this band, and they were a good band. I mean, they were called the Whatnots, which I thought was a pretty cool name. But they went out on the road for about 6-8 weeks, and he came back, and I heard him, and it was like somebody flipped a switch. And it's about playing every night together. It was unbelievable, and it taught me a big lesson about, you know, you don't have to do a lot of practicing. You just got to play. And you figure out eventually, I know Joe Blow here is going to do this, and I know he's going to do that, so I should do this. And after 5-6 weeks of that, wow, it sounds totally different. I mean, totally different.
Yeah, they got super tight.
Yeah, it's super tight. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I've had a lot of arguments with people about that concept, because coming from the classical world, you know, I mean, we do the like 40 practice, 1 gig, you know, and then it's complete opposite, 1 practice, 40 gigs, you know, in the country world or whatever, you know, I'm joking a little bit, but
it's a lot the same thing though. I mean, if you're doing that many practices, it's like getting super tight.
Right.
The average band, our band practices once a week if we make that practice. But when it's showtime, it's a little different.
Yeah.
And if you do that night after night after night, you know what's coming, you know. And I'm not talking about, and I'm not putting anything down, but you guys got this sheet of paper, right?
Right.
And you're gonna play this, but I've got options, and I know what's coming, and I try this, the first week, it's okay, I'll try this, and about the 4th week, I try this, and bingo, that's it for right there. And then you go to the next song, and boy, it really changes the band. Right,
and it's and I totally agree with you on that, because it's different with sight reading and ear, you know, or improv and sight reading, but it's like it's also just the general practicing at home, you know, I mean, you know, it's called being warm, you know, I mean, you've played, you know, quite a bit in the last year, and you're feeling good, you know, like at the end of college for me, I'd been playing in college, I mean, 3 times a day or whatever, you know, so at the end of college, I was like, I mean, you could get out your instrument in literally 7 seconds you're warm, you know, because you played so much in the last, but, so that's something that I've been kind of arguing with people about a little bit, because they'll run their argument on a similar lines to what you said, where it's not possible to get up with a band unless you've played a lot. And that I don't necessarily agree with, because I've gone down to the Foundation or random jams, and these 4 guys that don't even know each other are just bonkers killer, and they get up on stage and just murder everybody, you know. So that's where I kind of disagree with that argument, but you're obviously not wrong, because I mean, you do, you know, 3 years with the same guys over and over and over, and you're going to be shredding your songs and knowing what's coming, and so that's a good point.
Another interesting thing that I got taught a lesson on was back when I was working. I'm retired now, but back when I was working, I had to go down to San Antonio for 10 months, and I would fly out on Monday and come back on Friday. And so everywhere I have to, whether I go to training or whatever, if I go to another city, I'm taking my guitar and looking for a jam. Okay. I got 2 stories here. On this one, this taught me a big lesson. I'm at a Tuesday night jam every week, and I'm a decent player. There was a guy there that was a teacher that came in, and he was a Stevie Ray Vaughan fanatic. He had the same amp, the same pedal, the same, and he could literally play anything that he played just like him. I mean, he was that good. Yeah. And there was another kid that came in that was kind of blues, kind of fusion, but he was a real good player. So we're hitting this thing every week. And people are kind of going, yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. 3 black guys come in one night. Has nothing to do with being black. Mm-hmm. What I'm getting ready to say is they were horn player, bass player, and guitar player. And they got up there and played, and they weren't very good, and they were out of tune. But the guy singing and playing the guitar was just hopping all over the place, doing the thing. Yeah. And people were going nuts. Mm-hmm. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. And I learned right then, for sure, it's show business. Yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable, because these guys pretty much sucked. And I'm going, are you kidding me? Right. So I learned a big lesson. You can't just, if it's up to me, I'd probably stand behind a curtain and just play. Yeah. But you can't do that. Yeah. But the other thing I learned, I was in Dallas one time for training, and I went to a place called Hole in the Wall. And it's a known jam place, a big time, long time jam. It's a small place, and it probably seats 50 people, maybe 60. And the difference I learned, and I'm not saying I'm putting Kansas City down, but I'm telling what happens. Okay? If you go to a jam in Kansas City, in general, Knucklehead's a little bit of an exception. You've got a few people listening, and you've got a whole bunch of people talking. Yeah. I was at that jam in Dallas, and the minute you get up there, these people are sitting there like this. Okay, what's he gonna give me? Mm-hmm. And you play something there. The difference was unbelievable. Yeah. And I thought, holy crap, I've never seen this.
They're engaged fans.
They are big time engaged. It's like, wow, that's different.
Yeah.
But Knuckleheads is probably the best as far as
people will clap for solos. They're listening.
Yeah, I agree. But in general, the ones I've been over the years, they're kind of like, we come here to talk. I don't know why, but we came here to talk. But it's interesting, the different places that the way they react.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's probably worse than Kansas City and other cities.
I'm sure it is.
Than Kansas City even, but I agree that they'll still be. I'll see people clapping for solos here, but it's not everyone. It's not like they're not sitting there up in their seat and stuff like that.
I guess I shouldn't have said jams. It's in general. That happens a little bit. I've been to shows.
Lots of shows do that.
Big guys are up there, and I got people, 3 guys behind me. Just I'm going. Yeah. Come on. But that's
so we're probably getting close here to being done. But you mentioned something really interesting about the difference between, like, I always call it kind of the artist and entertainer. You kind of touched on this about how the guys can suck musically, but they've got this thing going on. This energy on the stage or some sort of quirky identity thing, or the Asian heavy metal guy, or they got some quirky thing, and so or they do the Kiss stuff, or they've got the tongue and the costumes and the lights, and they make a huge stage show, and that's something that I know has always frustrated me about being a classical player is we don't ever talk about that. 0 times. Yeah. It's all about playing music beautifully and learning your scales, and you're in tune and in time, and so my dad told me one time when he was at a show, I had to stand up there for my lyrics because I was singing, but he was telling me because I was standing, but my stand was like right here, and he's like, dude, and I didn't even realize this, but he's like, part of your instrument is that you have like a visual thing going on because you've got this arm and everybody can see, and he's like, you should keep your stand up there if you need it, but you need to just pull it down to here because I'm short, so, but that was an example of, he's like, that's just a thing that you can do, you're not going to be a costume guy because you're not just going to choose to not do that, but something that you can do to be a little bit more entertaining is that and everybody can watch you when you start, shredding it up. And
I totally agree. I've seen some crazy stuff that people and that's fine. They just go bonkers over. It's like, really? But I'm not out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking up at it. And quite honestly, I don't go to very many places to see people because I've played for 50-something years. I know what's going on. And I'm not a lot of people, a lot of musicians love going, and I just kind of stay at home. But so I'm not that guy looking at that kind of a stage. But sometimes you think you're really giving it to them, and you're just standing there, and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the problem, because like that's what we were taught. We were taught, if you're gonna play fast, you don't do this. You go and you don't look, and we all know the guys that look like they're doing nothing because they're playing very efficiently. They're on the guitar. They're and they don't look like they're even doing anything.
And that's funny you mentioned it, because I don't know who I was talking to, but it's like I've never given lessons to anybody because I don't read, but I can teach you some blues licks, and that's about it. But one guy that I knew, I've known him for a long time, and he said, please give me some lessons. And he's a real good guy, and he knew more scales than I'll ever know.
Yeah.
But he just didn't have the little things to make it sound right. So I did this, and it's just, I don't know what to think about this stuff. It's like, this guy is telling me all this stuff that he needs to know and all this, and I'm telling him, okay, you got to take this note, and you have to do this. What? You have to do this. Because otherwise it's just a note that everybody in town can play. And people don't, and what I'm getting to is what we were just talking about. I can play, and I'm an okay guitar player, but I can play a lead and have a conversation with you, watch TV, And so it doesn't dawn on me that I'm sitting there playing this lead, and I'm just doing this, and people are looking at me like, what are you doing? And so I've got to do something, and I didn't realize that for a long time, because like you and like me, once you've done it for so long, it's just, that's what I do. It's natural. I don't think about it. I'm just kind of looking around, and they're going, that guy's not very good. What's he doing? You know what I mean? It's a visual thing.
Yeah. I think probably what I get frustrated is what's this dude? Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I'm sure you've heard of it. So they go up there, and I saw their show once. And the violin, he does his power stance, and he has his thing, and he does the bow, and then again they're running all over. I mean, they're Garth Brooks running all over and they've got the the smoke and the fire and the laser light, and so this was my opinion. I'm sorry if they don't like it, but you take away the power stance and the lights and the smoke and you got some pretty average music. That's my opinion, and I think, and I'm sorry if this is blasphemy, but I think Kiss was the same way. You take the tongue away and the costume and the thing. I don't think they're that amazing of a band. I put them up against Zeppelin or something. It's just not even close,
Well, it's the old everybody's got to have something unique kind of thing.
Right, and so I would wonder if it was if obviously the ideal would be Jimi Hendrix with the laser lights. That's what you want, is you want the talent, but you also want the quirk too, or the shtick, or whatever you want to call it, entertainment value.
Well, the irony of the music business to me is I remember playing in clubs at Fort Smith, and there was a black guy in there that was a singer, and to this day he was as good as anybody. I mean, anybody I've ever heard. He would just take off doing, Sam Cooke might do it like this, whoever. He could do them all, and he was good. And I'm sitting there watching this guy, and I'm like 19 or 20, and I'm going, and I had the wherewithal to go, you know what? This guy's never going to get out of this club. And it's like, and then you look at some of the talent around that's made it, and you go, I can't figure it out, But yeah, there's all kinds of people that are super talented that never see the light of day. So, I guess I'm just happy to be able to play. I like it, I like doing it, and enjoy it. And hopefully people like what you do.
Yeah, man. Well, that's probably a good spot there to end it. So one more time, say your band name again for
Connie
everybody.
Hawkins and the Blues Wreckers.
Mm-hmm. Come check these guys out in town. A great band, and yeah, I don't know. That's probably about it there.
I'm sure I'll see you at another jam.
Yeah,
show.
man. Yeah, it's always fun to play with you, man. It's always fun to get up at a jam and you have some people up there that like know how to cue, kind of know what they're doing. That's always that's always nice, you know. So Steve Hawkins, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, get out of here. We'll see you next time.